You've been told your whole life that helping others is the right thing to do, that good people always say yes, always give, always sacrifice. From childhood, you were praised for being generous, for being available, for putting others first. But what if that belief is incomplete? What if this constant giving sometimes causes more harm than good? When you rush to fix, rescue, or carry others, you might not be helping. You might be interfering. You might be standing in the way of the very lessons life is trying to teach them. Alan Watts often said that the universe works through balance, through tension and release, through challenge and growth. And when we try to remove every obstacle from someone's path, we don't make their life easier. We make it smaller. Every time you save someone from the consequences of their choices, what happens? They learn nothing. They stay dependent. They repeat the same mistakes again and again. We call it kindness, but often it's fear. Fear of seeing someone suffer. Fear of being seen as cold or selfish. Yet life's greatest teacher isn't comfort. It's consequence. Imagine a parent who never lets their child fall. That child never learns to walk with strength. The same is true in adult life. Some people must feel discomfort to wake up. Some must face loss before they learn value. When you step in too soon, you interrupt that process. You take away the pain that leads to understanding. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you start caring wisely. There is a difference between helping and enabling, between compassion and control. Real compassion is not about taking away every hardship. It's about allowing others to experience what they need in order to grow. You can listen, you can guide, but you can't carry everyone. Because when you try to carry people who refuse to walk, you don't lift them, they pull you down. Watts once compared this to nature itself. A tree doesn't keep feeding a dead branch. A bird doesn't keep feeding a chick that refuses to open its mouth. Nature is compassionate, but it's not sentimental. It gives until giving no longer serves growth. So ask yourself, who are you carrying right now that should be walking? Who have you been rescuing over and over, hoping this time they'll change? Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is step back, not in anger, not in resentment, but in understanding. Because true compassion isn't about saving people from their choices. It's about trusting that life will teach them what you no longer need to. The chronically lazy. There is a difference between someone who is struggling and someone who has simply stopped trying. The struggling person takes your help as a step toward change. The chronically lazy person uses your help as a way to avoid effort. When you help them, you don't lift them, you replace them. You become their motivation, their energy, their excuse not to move. And once you start carrying their load, they have no reason to stand up again. You'll recognize this kind of person easily. They always have a reason why things are unfair. They blame the system, their past, their parents, their luck, anything except themselves. And yet, when you ask what they're doing today to change, the answer is always silence or another excuse. Alan Watts once compared life to a flowing river. You can't swim for someone who refuses to move their arms. If they float endlessly, waiting for others to carry them, they never learn to navigate their own current. When you keep rescuing the lazy, you're not being kind. You're preventing growth. You are feeding a pattern that keeps them weak. And while they stay stuck, you slowly burn out. Look at nature again. A tree doesn't keep feeding a branch that bears no fruit. It directs its energy toward what grows, what contributes, what responds. This isn't cruelty, it's wisdom. You must learn the same. If someone refuses to help themselves, your endless effort becomes meaningless. True assistance always depends on one thing: their willingness to act. Many kind-hearted people confuse pity with compassion. Pity says, "I will do it for you." Compassion says, "I believe you can do it." If you pay someone's bills while they make no effort to earn, if you fix their problems while they make no effort to learn, you are not helping. You are delaying their awakening. The chronically lazy person needs hunger to feel motivation, discomfort to find strength, and consequence to find discipline. If you keep shielding them from those experiences, you take away their only chance to grow. So ask yourself, are you helping because they're trying or because you feel guilty? Are you doing for them what they refuse to do for themselves? It's not unkind to step back. It's responsible. It's choosing truth over illusion. Sometimes love means letting people face the discomfort they've been avoiding. Because only when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change will they finally move. The perpetually ungrateful. Some people can receive everything: your time, your energy, your money, and still feel nothing. No gratitude, no acknowledgement, no sense of appreciation. They take your effort as if it were their right, not your choice. Gratitude is not a simple thank you. It's a mindset, a spiritual awareness that life is a gift and every act of kindness carries weight. An ungrateful person lacks this awareness. They don't see your giving as generosity, they see it as obligation. The more you give, the less they value it. What once felt like kindness turns into expectation. Stop giving for a moment, and they accuse you of betrayal. Help becomes dead in their eyes. This behavior is not about circumstances, it's about character. Gratitude shows humility. It shows someone understands that blessings are not guaranteed. The ungrateful person, on the other hand, believes they are owed by life itself. Psychologists call this entitlement syndrome. It happens when a person becomes so self-focused that they can't see the effort others make for them. They begin to assume that attention, help, and support are permanent conditions, things they deserve, not gifts to be appreciated. And here's the painful truth. The more you pour into them, the more resentful they become. Gratitude shrinks in the presence of entitlement. You might know someone like this. Maybe you've helped them pay bills, find work, or rebuild their life after failure. You sacrifice your comfort to lift them. But when you can no longer give, their tone changes. Suddenly you're selfish. Suddenly you changed. That's the paradox of the ungrateful. Kindness doesn't awaken them. It weakens them. Because your help becomes proof that they can demand more. Alan Watts often reminded listeners that true generosity requires awareness. Giving without discernment leads to exploitation. He said, "When you give to someone who cannot receive, it is like pouring water into a bucket full of holes. No matter how much you give, it disappears. You don't see growth. You see dependence. When you help an ungrateful person, you teach them that appreciation is optional. But appreciation is what keeps relationships balanced. Without it, every exchange turns into a transaction, every kindness into leverage." So how do you protect yourself? By recognizing that gratitude is the measure of healthy connection. When someone receives your help with humility, they are telling you, "I see your effort and I value it." That acknowledgement restores energy to both giver and receiver. But when they receive with silence, or worse, with criticism, they drain you. They break the natural flow of reciprocity, and soon, resentment replaces compassion. You must learn to stop feeding that cycle. When you sense that your giving is met with entitlement instead of appreciation, step back. Not in bitterness, but in clarity. Your energy is sacred. It deserves to be invested where it multiplies, not where it disappears. Gratitude is the soil in which kindness grows. Without it, no relationship, no friendship, no love can last. The arrogant and self-righteous. Some people don't come to you for help. They come for validation. They don't want truth, they want agreement. When you try to guide them, they resist because deep down, they believe they already know everything. Arrogance is not confidence. Confidence grows from understanding. Arrogance grows from fear. The arrogant person fears being wrong. Their entire identity depends on being right, on feeling superior, on controlling the narrative. When you offer them wisdom, they don't listen. They defend. They argue. They turn every conversation into proof of their own importance. You can't teach them because they won't learn, not until life itself humbles them. Alan Watts once said that pride blocks awareness. A mind that clings to certainty cannot receive truth. It's like a closed fist, nothing can enter. The self-righteous live in that tension. They crave recognition but reject correction. If you've ever tried to help someone like this, you know the frustration. You pour your heart out. You show them a better way. They nod politely, then do the opposite. When it fails, they blame everyone but themselves. And when you stop trying, they accuse you of giving up on them. But the truth is, they were never listening. You must learn to see the difference between openness and ego. Helping the arrogant is like shouting into the wind, effort without result. They need to fall, not to be pushed, but to meet reality face to face. History, philosophy, and psychology all agree on one thing. Pride precedes collapse. From ancient proverbs to modern studies, the message is the same. Humility is the doorway to growth. When someone insists they have all the answers, the universe has a way of correcting them. Sometimes that correction looks like failure, loss, or isolation. These experiences, painful as they are, open the door that your words never could. That's why chasing an arrogant person with advice is wasted energy. You're trying to do life's job for them. Let consequence be their teacher. Your role is not to convince, but to speak truth once, clearly, calmly, and walk away. When they are ready, they will remember. What's often pointed to how even spiritual seekers fall into this trap, the illusion of being enlightened, of being above others. But enlightenment is not about superiority, it's about surrender. The moment you think you have arrived, you've stopped moving. So if you meet someone who resists guidance, who argues every point, who treats help as insult, release them. You can't pour wisdom into a closed vessel. Help only those who meet you with humility, because humility signals readiness. It tells you that the person is willing to learn, willing to grow, willing to see. When pride stands tall, silence is wiser than rescue. The habitually wicked. Not everyone who struggles is lost. Some people simply make mistakes and learn. But there are others, those who know they're causing harm and continue anyway. These are the habitually wicked, the ones whose choices consistently damage others for their own gain. They lie, cheat, and manipulate without guilt. When confronted, they don't change, they justify. They twist truth to protect themselves and confuse anyone who questions them. Helping people like this doesn't heal them. It strengthens them. It gives them more tools to continue the harm. Alan Watts warned that enabling the destructive is not compassion but partnership with darkness. To fund their actions, defend their lies, or clean up their chaos is to join them in it. You might think, everyone deserves a second chance. And yes, forgiveness has value. But the habitually wicked don't want redemption. They want control. They interpret mercy as weakness and kindness as opportunity. In every tradition, spiritual, philosophical, even psychological, there's a shared warning. Do not aid those who consciously do evil. In Buddhism, this is karma's distortion. In Christianity, it's the trap of casting pearls before swine. In Stoicism, it's wasting energy on what corrupts the soul. When you keep rescuing the wicked, you slow their awakening. The more you protect them from consequences, the more convinced they become that they are untouchable. Some people must meet the full weight of their own choices before change begins. Until then, your help only feeds the pattern. You might feel pity, the urge to fix or reform them. But remember, pity is emotion without clarity. Compassion requires wisdom. Compassion can say, I see your suffering, and still walk away when the suffering is self-created and freely chosen. The wicked don't seek light, they seek cover. They want someone to absorb the fallout while they continue their destruction. The moment you refuse, they'll turn against you, because your boundaries expose their motives. Watts often spoke of balance in the universe, that harmony is preserved through natural correction. When something moves too far into decay, nature stops feeding it. The same principle applies here. You must stop giving life to what drains integrity from your world. Helping a wicked person is not saving them. It's sabotaging yourself. Let life teach them. Let truth reach them through their own experience. Your role is not to rescue darkness, but to refuse to be consumed by it. Keep your energy for those who can still hear, still feel, still change. Be incurably foolish. A fool is not someone who lacks intelligence. A fool is someone who refuses to learn. You can show them truth, you can warn them about danger, you can save them from disaster, and they will walk straight back into it. They repeat mistakes like rituals. They ignore advice because they trust impulse more than insight. They believe experience teaches them nothing new. And when consequences come, they act surprised, as if the world has betrayed them. Helping such people feels noble at first. They seem lost, desperate, overwhelmed. You feel called to step in, but soon you notice a pattern. Every crisis looks familiar. Every solution you offer fades, replaced by the same chaos you tried to fix before. Watts observed that some people only learn through collision. They must feel the full impact of their own actions before awareness awakens. If you intervene too early, you interrupt that process. You soften the fall that life designed to wake them. In psychology, this is called rescue addiction. The rescuer believes they can save others through effort, persuasion, or sacrifice. But fools cannot be saved by others. They must meet reality directly. Until that moment, your energy becomes fuel for repetition. Think of a person who keeps touching fire despite the burns. Words won't change them. Pain will. Every rescue resets the lesson. Every comfort delays the insight. The incurably foolish often come disguised as victims. Their stories evoke sympathy, their pain feels real, and it is. But pain without reflection becomes habit. They suffer, but they do not change. Your task is not to fix them, but to let them face the consequences fully. Real transformation is born in discomfort. When you keep cushioning their fall, they never hit the ground that would have taught them to stand. Watts said that the fool lives in illusion, a world built from avoidance and denial. The wise person sees through it and withdraws. Helping a fool who refuses to see truth is like pouring water into sand. The effort disappears. The problem remains. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop intervening where your help has no impact. You step aside so reality can do what advice could not. When you finally stop rescuing, fools often become angry. They call you heartless. But what they're really feeling is the loss of protection, the first touch of consequence. And that pain, uncomfortable as it is the seed of awakening. Do not steal that awakening from them. Let their experience become their teacher. Remember, wisdom cannot be forced on anyone. It can only be discovered through living. The master manipulator. This person is the most dangerous of all because they rarely look dangerous. They don't demand, they persuade. They don't take, they make you want to give. Manipulators understand human nature. They know that kind people hate saying no, that empathetic people feel guilty when they set limits. They use that knowledge as a weapon. Every story they tell is crafted to pull emotion, every expression rehearsed to spark your sympathy. You'll notice it in their language. They never ask directly, they hint. They play the victim, exaggerate pain, or pretend to be helpless. You help once, and it feels right. You help again, and it becomes routine. Before long, you realize you're doing things you never intended, spending time, money, and emotional energy that you can't afford to lose. Alan Watts said that manipulation thrives where awareness is absent. It grows in guilt, obligation, and the fear of being unkind. Manipulators feed on that fear. They sense it instantly and twist it into control. They can appear charming, sincere, even spiritual. But when you stop giving, their mask slips. They grow cold, resentful, or hostile. Suddenly, you're the villain. They tell others you abandoned them, that you're selfish or cruel. In truth, what you abandoned was their control. The manipulator's greatest trick is convincing you that helping them is your moral duty. They appeal to your goodness until it becomes your weakness. And once they've drained you, they move on to the next target. Always with a story, always with blame. You can't help a manipulator because their need isn't genuine. It's strategic. Every favor you grant becomes another string they pull. They are not seeking healing, they are seeking power. Psychologists describe this behavior as emotional conditioning. You're rewarded with affection when you comply and punished with guilt when you resist. Over time, you stop thinking and start reacting. You confuse their comfort with your purpose. The only way to break free is clarity. You must recognize the pattern and refuse to play the role they've assigned you. Set a boundary and mean it. Expect anger. Expect manipulation disguised as sadness. Hold the line anyway. Watts taught that the wise person gives freely but never under pressure. True giving is spontaneous, joyful, and without expectation. The manipulator poisons that purity by turning it into obligation. So when you sense someone using your empathy as leverage, pause. Ask yourself, is this help being received with honesty, or is it being used as control? If it's the latter, walk away. You owe no explanation. Awareness is your protection. Remember, compassion without discernment becomes self-destruction. Helping should create strength in both people, not exhaustion in one and power in the other. Save your energy for those who value truth over advantage, because the manipulator will never stop taking until you stop giving. The unrepentant rebel. This person knows the difference between right and wrong and chooses wrong anyway. They have been warned, guided, forgiven, and helped countless times, but they continue down the same destructive path. Their rebellion is not ignorance, it is defiance. They hear the truth, nod in agreement, promise to change, and then return to the same behavior the moment you look away. They live in cycles of apology and relapse. Their words say, "I'll do better," but their actions say, "I won't." Alan Watts often spoke about self-awareness as the key to transformation. But awareness must be followed by willingness. The unrepentant rebel lacks that. They want the rewards of change without the responsibility of effort. When you help someone like this, you're not supporting growth. You're financing avoidance. You're giving resources to someone committed to repeating failure. And the more you help, the more they depend on your forgiveness as a shield from consequence. The hardest part is that these people often have potential. You can see what they could become if they ever decided to grow. That vision keeps you hoping, keeps you trying. But your hope can't substitute for their decision. You cannot want change more than they do. You cannot fight their battles for them. Every time you try, you drain yourself while they stay exactly the same. In every tradition of wisdom, there's a point where compassion must transform into boundary. Jesus walked away from those who refused to listen. The Buddha taught that clinging creates suffering. Stoic philosophy calls it wasted energy, effort spent where understanding cannot enter. Your compassion must be wise enough to let go. The unrepentant rebel needs to meet the pain they've been avoiding. Only then will they have a reason to choose differently. Until that moment, your help keeps them comfortable in their destruction. If you step back, it might look like abandonment, but it isn't. It's respect for freedom. Everyone has the right to choose their path, even if that path leads to pain. When you stop rescuing them, something shifts. At first, they blame you. Then life begins to teach them what you no longer can. Some awaken, most don't. Either way, you've done your part. What's described this as letting the universe correct itself. When a person refuses growth, life applies the pressure that words cannot. That's not punishment, it's balance. So release the rebel. Stop mistaking persistence for love. Love sometimes says, enough. You can care without enabling. You can wish them well without walking beside them into chaos. Your role is not to drag them toward wisdom, but to live it yourself. Let them fall if they must. Let consequence do what compassion cannot. The wisdom of boundaries. After hearing about all these people, the lazy, the ungrateful, the arrogant, the wicked, the foolish, the manipulative, and the rebellious, a question naturally arises. Should we stop helping people altogether? The answer is no. True compassion doesn't vanish, it evolves. Real kindness is not about saying yes to everything. It's about knowing when to say yes and when to step back. Alan Watts often reminded his listeners that wisdom is balance. You can care deeply and still protect your energy. You can love people and still let them face their lessons. Boundaries are not barriers. They're clarity. They define where your responsibility ends and another's begins. Without them, even the kindest heart will eventually collapse. When you give endlessly to those who take without gratitude, effort, or intention, your compassion becomes self-destruction. You lose the strength to help the people who truly want to change. The key is discernment. Ask yourself 3 simple questions before you help someone. 1. Are they willing to take responsibility? If not, your help will vanish into excuses. 2. Do they value what you're giving? If they don't appreciate it, they won't use it. 3. Have they learned from past mistakes? If they repeat the same patterns, your help is feeding stagnation. When you apply these questions, your giving becomes powerful again. You stop rescuing and start empowering. You invest in people who use your energy to grow rather than waste it. What's compared human relationships to gardening? You can water a seed, but you cannot force it to sprout. Your job is to nurture the soil, not to beg the plant to live. Help those who reach for life, not those who pull you into their darkness. When you give to the right people, your energy multiplies. You see results. You see gratitude. You see transformation. When you give to the wrong people, your energy disappears. You see blame. You see dependency. You see exhaustion. Protect your time, your focus, your peace. They are sacred. The universe works through you, and it cannot flow freely when you are drained by those who refuse to rise. So the next time you feel torn between helping and walking away, remember this: stepping back is not cruelty. It's wisdom. It's trust in life's ability to teach. You are not responsible for saving everyone. You can only point the way. Whether they walk that path or not is their choice, not your failure. In the end, love that enables destruction is not love. It's fear disguised as virtue. Love that respects growth, that allows struggle, that trusts consequence, that is real compassion. Let go of the need to fix. Offer help where it will take root. Stand firm where it will be wasted. Because sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for someone is to let them meet themselves.